Thank you very much, David. A great talk. We learned a lot about relationship with France. But we also learned, of course, that the IoT is a complex subject and that there is a way forward. There are nice examples, but I think what we also pointed out at the end, it's a lot about the quantity, and often we're not aware of what does it mean if it's many server, many objects, and if they all try to get activated or send data. I think this links nicely to the next speaker is Frank Rieger, spokesperson from the German Chaos Computer Club. He is very active. He was also writing books. Maybe you're going to say something about that. But moreover, he has now a view on the Internet of Things, linked to smart cities from a more organic perspective, right? Thank you very much.
Thanks for the invitation. I don't know who you knows the Chaos Computer Club? Okay, so say a little bit about it. So the Chaos Computer Club is a classical hacker organization. We are, I think, the biggest hacker organization in the world. We define hacking as controlling technology in a way that we want to control it. So we're not about breaking into other people's computers, but mostly breaking into our own computers and making them work as we see fit and making technology work in the ways that we prefer it to work. And that also involves thinking a lot about how technology interacts with society, what it does to our lives, to the way we work, the way we laugh. And what drives us there is also the impulse to educate and to tell people what is coming, what the risks are, what the chances are, and what we possibly as a society could do about that. And so we do a lot of education stuff. We have the Congress at the end of the year, which is I think, meanwhile, the biggest technology conference in Europe. And in summer, we will have basically an outdoor conference in mid of August, the CCC camp, where all these kind of topics around technology, about politics, are being discussed. And we are also very much into having fun, so trying to find the absurd, trying to find the interesting in this whole field. The CCC is a complete volunteer organization, so we do only do the stuff that we want to do, which makes us rather independent in all these things. And so regarding this Internet of Things stuff, we have been playing with that, especially with all the very nice Arduinos, thanks for that, again, for a long time, and trying to figure out useful ways of working with them, trying to also figure out what will become of these. And there are a couple of thoughts that are driven mostly by science fiction in some sense, because science fiction has as a unique art form where we can think about the future without actually being there. And one of the major works of science fiction that shows how Internet of Things and smart cities, see these two connected work, is something very unexpected, which is the movie Demolition Man. You know that? It's actually a Sylvester Stallone movie, and it has a lot of artistic violence in it, and it also has a lot of thinking about how a centrally controlled future city would work, where all the things are smart and intelligent and controlled and benevolent and want to, make your future life nice and easy. And when you look at the way how we delegate authority on these things, then we see that at the moment the authority is delegated on shaping this future to technologists, technology companies, and bureaucrats. So these are the two entities that are mostly thinking about that stuff and working on that thing and building the technology and thinking about the political frameworks and the market frameworks, that how these Internet of Things world will shape up. And the interesting point there is that there are both classes of people are patently the wrong people to do that. I mean, technologists are, we build stuff. So we like to build stuff, so we construct things, we construct systems, but basically most technologists are doing what they're being told. So people who pay them tell them what they should build. And then there are tweaks and hackables and things that make it a little bit more fun and maybe subvert the original purpose a bit. But overall, basically, programmers build what they're being told. It's not like the programmers are in charge, but the people who pay the programmers are in charge. And okay, I will not really go into bureaucrats. We all have our experiences that. So it's not the right group of people to actually shape our future, but they do at the moment. And one of the things that we need to understand is that all this technology that is coming is a tool. And it's a tool to make our optimization goals reachable. What we're talking about in all these sensors everywhere, smart things, getting all this knowledge about the world, all the data, is in the end a way to make our optimization goals easier to reach. So we optimize for certain things. We optimize for energy efficiency, or we optimize for profitability. We optimize for better usage of human resources, which is us. And this brings me to a very fundamental point, because we can talk to all end about how technology works and how we make it happen and what the difficulties are in connecting all these sensors and what interesting insights we can gain and so on and so on. But fundamentally, all this technology is manifesting the underlying philosophy of our society. So when the underlying major consensus narrative of what our society thinks how it should behave is that it's a thing maybe like out of an Ayn Rand novel, that we are all individuals that should fiercely fight for our own profit and our own good, and in the end magically somehow a collective society will emerge, then this technology will be used and will be shaped in that way. So and that means endless self-optimization, all the fitness trackers and so on and so on. Or if we think that, or the major consensus narrative is that we are living in fear and there's terror out there and all the crises are coming and everything needs to be tracked and possibly surveillanced, so then technology will shape in that way. I mean, it's not like technology has its own mind, its own drive. It's we collectively shaping it. And that means that our manifest underlying streams of thinking, of feeling, or philosophy are manifesting in that. And this is one of the things why I really like being here at Transmediale, is because this is where art is coming in. So artists are there to reflect on the underlying currents in society and to make them visible. And I think Transmediale did a pretty good job here in making the currently very dark, very dystopian undercurrent that is running in our society very visible and making it feelable. And I think this is one of the things where art has a major role to play, and it is not so much in making it into a form of production that is akin to how could we make the maker movement into better startups like the EU sometimes likes to do, but basically making it using art as an indicator on in what direction our society is moving, and maybe putting in brakes and trying to move it away from that into different directions. And the goals that we're having there are sometimes very noble, like energy saving, for instance. So one of the major narratives of Internet of Things is that we can save a lot of energy by using it. And then we have the stuff like the smart meters that are currently introduced in Germany. So it's by law, you need to know from this year when you build a new building, you need to have a smart meter in there. And then you ask, okay, can we show the statistics on how much energy are being saved by them? And then it's getting a little bit uncomfortable, and a silence creeps into the room and the tumbleweed rolls by because there are none. The problem is there are very simple ways making people save energy, which is just by telling them how much energy they are using. People are not stupid, most of them at least. So that means if you tell them how much energy they are currently consuming, very finely detailed, telling them, not the cloud, but them, then they start saving energy. So they start hunting down where is my hidden energy usages and so on, and then they do that. and they save consistently around 15% of energy, which is a lot. It is major. It's a really, really big thing. And the technology being used there is totally stupid and simple. It's just a display meter, nothing very terrific. But this is nothing they can build an industry on. So they can build an industry on is the narrative saying, we need to connect all these washing machines and dryers and freezers and make them talk to the cloud, and the cloud will then tell them when energy is cheap because the sun shines and the wind blows, and then suddenly everybody will start their washing machine when the wind blows, or something like that. And the end result is that we have a very noble optimization goal that we can all agree on, which is energy saving, wasting billions of euros on that, on the wrong technology, because nobody really thought about asking for what it really does. And in the end, we end up in a surveillance society, because what the cloud now can perfectly tell you is which TV program you're watching. And in theory, you could even start your washing machine at the right time when the wind blows and the sun shines, but nobody does, because you want to have your clothes dry and done when you want to have them, not when the wind blows. So this tells us a lot about what's currently going wrong in this society control experiment that we're driving into with this Internet of Things thing. And that is that we're having no dispute about our optimization goals. We don't have any way of reaching consensus on them anymore. We have these 2 or 3 things that we can agree on, like saving the climate, consuming less energy. But when you then start, for instance, at using less water, then it becomes complex and paradox. For instance, using less water is the thing that the Berlin Water Works, the public utility that distributes water, they're really trying to get away from this message of using less water. Not so much because they profit from that, but because there is now so little water consumed that they need to flush in fresh water into the canalization to get rid of the sewage. So we're using too little water in Berlin. So, and obviously there is not really an Internet of Things solution for that yet there. So maybe there will be an intelligent toilet flushing mechanism at some point that talks to a neighbor's toilet flushing mechanism. But yeah. And another thing that I would like to talk about is when we littering everything with sensors, then we're making ourselves quantifiable in many ways. And I wrote a book with my co-author Constanze Koos on automation, so how the machines that we're building will get rid of us in the workplace at some point. And one thing that we noticed is there's a consistent pattern throughout history, which is whenever a job becomes quantifiable, it is directly straight a job that will be becoming minimum wage very soon. The idea behind this is very simple. When you have it quantifiable, then you can compare different humans in the same job, which means that you can use a very much larger pool of applicants in the job market and find out the most optimal suited ones to their job. So, but the interesting question is what happens to us outside of our work environment? So we're quantifying ourselves endlessly, how much we eat, how much we move, how our audience reacts. So even Facebook likes are in the end in quantification of how funny we are or how liked we are. So we're basically trying to make ourselves very much trackable. But what does that mean? I mean, not all of our lives are depending on jobs. And I thought about, so why has no one yet come up with a dating portal that takes all this data in? Like a dating portal that forces you to disclose all your fitness tracker data so that you can objectively judge your mating candidates for fitness. I mean, there is extension potential. So you could, for instance, buy up the remains of 23andMe. I mean, this is a genetic sequencing portal where a lot of data is sitting around unused now, being sold to pharmaceutical companies. But there's a lot of potential in there to optimize our personal lives along the lines of optimization goals. And the question is, we need to debate about that. So we need to actually start a societal discourse about what do we want to optimize for? What do we want to use all this data for? So currently we have already the effect that many of these Internet of Things startups are droning in data, so they're having too much data and they cannot really make sense of that. So, and before we don't have an idea what we want to do with all that, it kind of, it is smart stupidity basically. So it's not smart things, but things that are potentially smart, but we are not having good usages for them yet. Good is another term that we need to define in that area, of course. So the question then is, if we have not talked about what society we want to live on, if we want to live in a dystopian surveillance society, which there are probably people who want to live in one, or if we maybe want to optimize for other goals, then we're having these huge tools laying around and they're getting bigger all the time. We're building them, this technology, for anybody to grab. And so one thing Internet of Things will be doing is it will forcing us to segment into tribes. So we have already currently the situation that when I want to share my battery power from my battery pack or my power supply to my friend's phone, he could be in the other tribe. So he could be in the I tribe while I'm in the Android tribe, and that means our power plugs don't fit. And which is a very simple example. So, but in the future, in the Internet of Things world, where all these vertical silos are being built and all these empires, like Bruce said, wrangle about control for you and your data, isolating these data silos makes a lot of sense. So, and that means that my Internet of Things could not talk to my friend's Internet of Things because they may be in a different tribe. And I may not even seeing what is being going on there. So I don't have a Facebook account that I use, so I'm not seeing what is going on in the whole universe. It's like a blind spot, so like dark side of the moon for me. And these dark side of the moon effects will grow up ever more, except if you're investing the time to be in all tribes at once, or at least in all relevant tribes at once. And I think there's a huge potential for politics actually to interfere in a good sense. And one of the things that you brought up, this example of Internet of Things dying because their cloud service died. So there would be a very simple solution that just demanding every piece of electronic that is being sold needs a label for how long it is good. So just so you buy this thing and it has a 3 years label. 3 years says the supplier, the guy who sells it to you, guarantees that the cloud service and the software updates and the security updates will be available for 3 years. After that, we don't know, but at least you know it's 3 years. So, or he says lifetime or 10 years or something like that. So, and then you could attach a number of rules to that, saying, okay, if he doesn't fulfill this obligation, automatically he needs to disclose the source to the cloud service and the hardware schematics and everything so that people can still continue running this device. Or he needs to disclose the protocol so that you can build your own service around this Internet of Thing. And so these type of regulations making this whole world kind of humanly accessible and not driving too deeply into this natural monopolies that will be, of course, cropping up there, is something where politics actually can do something good. And many other things, I think the governments and the corporations are the wrong entities to actually work in this field, because governments are infested by the security apparatus, so they always want to have surveillance access, they always want to have organized things to spy on us, and I don't think that is something that we can agree anymore on. So I don't want my things to spy on me, even not potentially. So that means that the government should have no say in that, in how these things are built or how the protocol's working. So and the corporations have the same problem. They always want to spy on me for different reasons. They want my data to sell me more stuff, which is what most of Google is currently being spent on in engineering power, is making you click on advertising. And so the question is, could we as a society develop into a discourse that springs of new entities that are meant to regulate this thing, to basically build something. In Germany, we have this institution that's called öffentlich-rechtlich, which is kind of dusty and kind of not really nice, but it's basically in the public interest. So something where the public in itself constitutes institutions that are in their own interest. And I think that especially for this whole Internet of Things stuff and for the protocols and all the data behind it, we need these kind of institutions that are not interested in spying on us for whatever reason at all. I think I'm done. Thanks.